Welcome back, listeners, to Sandman Stories Presents, a folklore podcast where I read you to sleep or until the next story. I'm your host, Dustin. If you want more Sandman, I have extra stories that are too spicy for the main feed available on my Patreon. You can even join at the free tier and get everything. And thank you to Nikki for being the newest member. Today we are back in the book of Georgian Folk Tales written down by Marjory Wardrop. In this story, we hear the Georgian take on a classic fairy tale. Okay, let's begin. Conkiajgharuna, Georgian Cinderella. There was, and there was not. There was a miserable peasant. He had a wife and a little daughter. So poor was this peasant that his daughter was called Conkiajgharuna, the little girl in rags. Some time passed, and his wife died. He was unhappy before, but now a greater misfortune had befallen him. He grieved, and at last he said to himself, "I will go and take another wife. She will mind the house and tend to my orphan child." So he arose and took a second wife, but this wife brought with her a daughter of her own. When this woman came into her husband's house and saw his child, she felt anger in her heart. She treated Conkia badly. She praised her own daughter, but scolded her stepdaughter, and tried to get rid of her. Every day she gave her a burnt piece of bread, and sent her out to watch the cow, saying, "Here is a loaf. Eat it, give it to every wayfarer, and bring the loaf home whole." The girl went out, and felt very miserable. One time she was sitting in the field, sad, and began to weep bitterly. The cow listened, and then opened its mouth and said, "Why are you weeping? What troubles you?" The girl told her sad tale. The cow said, "In one of my horns is honey, and in the other is butter, which you can take if you want, so why be unhappy?" The girl took the butter and the honey, and in a short time she grew plump. When the stepmother noticed this, she did not know what to do, for she was in such a rage. She got up, and every day after, she gave her a basket of wool. This wool was to be spun and finished and brought home in the evening. The stepmother wished to tire the girl out with toil, so that she would grow thin and ugly. Once, when Conkia was tending the cow, it ran away onto the roof. The girl pursued it and wished to drive it back onto the road, but she dropped her spindle on the roof. Looking inside, she saw an old woman seated and said to her, "Good mother, will you give me my spindle?" The old dame replied, "I am not able, my child. Come and take it yourself." This old woman was a Devi. The girl went in and was lifting up her spindle when the old dame called out, "Daughter, daughter, come and look at my head for a moment. I am almost eaten up." The girl came and looked at her head. She was filled with horror. All the worms on earth seemed to be crawling there. The little girl stroked her head and removed some and said, "You have a clean head. Why should I look at it?" This conduct pleased the old woman very much, and she said, "When you go out, go along such and such a road, and in a certain place you will see 3 springs. One white, one black, and one yellow. Pass by the white and black, and put your head in the yellow, and wash it with your hands." The girl did this. She went on her way and came to the 3 springs. She passed by the white and black ones, and bathed her head with her hands in the yellow fountain. When she looked up, she saw that her hair was quite golden too, and her hands too. They shone like gold. In the evening, when she went home, her stepmother was filled with fury. After this, she sent her own daughter with the cow. Perhaps some good fortune would visit her. So Conkia stayed at home while her stepsister drove out the cow. Once more the cow ran onto the roof. The girl pursued it, and her spindle fell down. She looked in, and seeing the Devi woman, called out, "Hey, dog of an old woman, here, come and give me my spindle." The old woman replied, "I am not able, child. Come and take it yourself." When the girl came near, the old woman said, "Come, child, and look at my head." The girl came and looked at her head and cried out, "Ugh, what a horrid head you have! You are a disgusting old woman." The old woman said, "I thank you, my child. When you are on your way, you will see a yellow, a white, and a black spring. Pass by the yellow and white springs, and wash your head with your hands in the black one." The girl did this. She passed by the yellow and white springs, and bathed her head in the black one. When she looked at herself, she was as black as midnight, and on her head there was a horn. She cut it off again and again, but it grew larger and larger. She went home and complained to her mother, who was almost frenzied, but there was no help for it. Her mother said to herself, "This is all the cow's fault, so it shall be killed." This cow knew the future. When it learned that it was to be killed, it went to Conkia and said, "When I am dead, gather my bones together and bury them in the earth. When you are in trouble, come to my grave and cry aloud, 'Bring my steed and my royal robes.'" Conkiajgharuna did exactly as the cow had told her. When it was dead, she took its bones and buried them in the earth. After this, some time passed. One holiday, the stepmother took her daughter, and they went to church. She placed a trough in front of Conkia and spread a kodi, about 80 pounds, of millet in the courtyard, and said, "Before we come home from church, fill this trough with tears and gather up this millet, so that not one grain is left." Then they went to church. Conkia sat down and began to weep. While she was crying, a neighbor came in and said, "Why are you in tears? What is the matter?" The little girl told her tale. The woman brought all the hens and chickens, and they picked up every grain of millet. Then she put a lump of salt in the trough and poured water over it. "There, child," she said, "these are your tears. Now go and enjoy yourself." Conkia then thought of the cow. She went to its grave and called out, "Bring me my steed and my royal robes." There at once appeared a horse and beautiful clothes. Conkia put on the garments, mounted the horse, and went into the church. There all the folk began to stare at her. They were amazed at her grandeur. Her stepsister whispered to their mother when they saw her, "This girl is very much like our Conkia." Her mother smiled scornfully and said, "Who would give that sun-darkener such robes?" Conkia left the church before anyone else. She changed her clothes in time to appear before her stepmother in rags. On the way home, as she was leaping over a stream, in her haste she let her slipper fall in. A long time passed. Once, when the king's horses were drinking water in this stream, they saw the shining slipper, and they were so afraid that they would not drink any more water. The king was told that there was something shining in the stream, and that the horses were afraid. The king commanded his divers to find out what it was. They found the golden slipper and presented it to the king. When he saw it, he commanded his viziers, saying, "Go and seek the owner of this slipper, for I will wed none but her." His viziers sought the maiden, but they could not find anyone who would fit the slipper. Conkia's stepmother heard this, adorned her daughter, and placed her on the throne. Then she went and told the king that she had a daughter whose foot he might want to look at, as it was exactly the model for the shoe. She put Conkiajgharuna in a corner with a big basket over her. When the king came into the house, he sat down on the basket in order to try on the slipper. Conkiajgharuna took the needle and pricked the king from under the basket. He jumped up, stinging with pain, and asked the stepmother what she had under the basket. The stepmother replied, "'Tis only a turkey I have there." The king sat down on the basket again, and Conkia again stuck the needle into him. The king jumped up and cried out, "Lift the basket, I will see what's underneath." The stepmother entreated him, saying, "Do not blame me, your majesty. It's only a turkey, and it will run away." But the king would not listen to her entreaties. He lifted up the basket, and Conkia came forth and said, "This slipper is mine, and it fits me well." She sat down, and the king found that it was indeed a perfect fit. Conkiajgharuna became the king's wife, and her shameless stepmother was left with a dry throat. The end. Well, I like this version. I especially like that the stepmother wasn't left with any, pain or wasn't killed or hurt or anything, just left with a dry throat. It's like, oh, that's good revenge. And of course it has some similarities with the more famous Grimm's Brothers tale, but it also had some stuff that's usually seen in Turkish or Middle Eastern cultures like the Devi. I'm really enjoying this book, and I hope that you are too. And the podcast shout out today is to the Derazzled podcast. Jack and Joe climb that hill of bad movies to fetch a pail of something redeemable. They try their best to take a movie that won a Razzie and find something good about it, or at least how they can fix it so it wouldn't win a Razzie. And if you like their show as much as I do, go and give them a like, a rating, and a review. And the listener shout out is to Morogoro, a city located in the eastern part of Tanzania, approximately 196 kilometers west of Dar es Salaam. It serves as the capital of the Morogoro region. Informally, it is referred to as Mikasoro Bahari, which translates to the city short of an ocean/port. It is the homeland of the Luguru people, and they are a matrilineal group of Bantu speakers. I could not find translations of my sign-off in their language, so I will do it in Swahili. And of course, I would love to go there and visit there, if for nothing else than to find their rat training program to find mines and tuberculosis. So to my listener who might be training the next mine-finding rat, I say in Swahili, Asante and Usiku Mwema. Thank you, and good night.